Judith Kingsbury from SavvyVegetarian.com. Welcome to my brother's kitchen here in the beautiful Pacific Northwest. Today I'm going to cook simple sautéed vegetables with summer squash and bok choy. Summer squash and bok choy are both watery vegetables, so they don't require any extra cooking liquid or steaming. All I'm going to do is sauté them until they get soft, add a little bit of spice, and then yum, 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 eat them up. First I'm going to heat my pan on medium-low. While that happens, I'm going to chop my squash and bok choy. Normally this recipe calls for a lot more summer squash, but I only have one, so I'm going to use just half a head of my bok choy. The recipe calls for it to be chopped in 1-inch pieces. The summer squash and the white stems of the bok choy are cooked together, and then I'll add the green leaves. I'm going to separate the greens from the whites and chop those up. Now I've got about the same amount of whites as I have summer squash. I might like a bit more greens. I'm going to use more of the greens and save the whites for a soup. Turn up the heat a bit. I've added about a half tablespoon of olive oil. You can use more or less if you want to. Adding the summer squash and the bok choy stems. Saute them until they start to get soft. This recipe is basically standing and sautéing. At some point when the water starts to leave the vegetables, you'll have to turn up the heat a little bit because the cooking slows down. I've turned my burner off for a minute and I'm going to chop the bok choy. This calls for a 1/4 teaspoon each of cumin, ginger, fenugreek, and turmeric. I substituted a half a teaspoon of fennel for the fenugreek and used a little less turmeric and threw in a pinch of salt and pepper. I'm adding the spices to the pan now. Turn the heat back on. Stir the spices with the vegetables until the vegetables are coated. At this point, the squash and the bok choy stems are about half cooked. Now I'm adding the bok choy leaves, stirring in them until they're wilted. Oh, forgot to mention, this also calls for a pinch of cayenne, but I'm not in the mood for hot spice today, so I've left it out. That's looking good. That's looking good. It's ready to serve. Turned off the heat while I get everything ready to serve. I'm serving this dish with brown rice, fried tofu with a dollop of salsa, and some cured olives. Thank you for joining me to make summer squash and bok choy. I hope you enjoy it as much as I'm going to. Happy cooking, and I'll see you next time in the beautiful Pacific Northwest.